What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about low volume versus high volume training and what you should be doing and which one is better for hypertrophy and muscle growth. Alright, so let's go over some of the advantages anyway, or some of the reasons why people like lower volume training. Now, lower volume training definitely takes up less of your day. I feel like there are some people, including kind of like myself, where it kind of feels like we just live and breathe the gym. Like, I know Will Tennyson even made a video at one point where he was like, I've been trained, my Google Maps or whatever, these are his words, said the gym was home because of how much time he was spending in it. And, we all have other things in our life, other important things like family, friends, education, our business, or whatever we're doing outside of that, or just other fun activities. And not everyone has a lot of time to hit the gym and stuff, so they have to do a low volume training protocol. Now, if you are going to do low volume, though, I think it's more important than ever that you ramp up that intensity. Each set you have to really, really focus on. There's no, if you're doing low volume, you don't get any sets to play around with, or any sets where you're like, yeah, that set wasn't perfect, but I have another one, so I can just, make the next one perfect. You don't really have that luxury with low volume training, so you really got to push really hard. So I would recommend, if you are doing low volume training, you should incorporate drop sets, maybe even supersets, especially if you're one of those people who wants to save on time. I think supersetting biceps and then also triceps and stuff like that to save on even more time. I think that's a great way of doing it. But you basically need to push your sets really, really hard, because if you're doing less work, you need that work to be a lot higher quality, so you can still make gains and make really good progress in the gym. Another thing that low volume folks really like or whatever is they find that they can recover quite a bit better. And I think, to be honest, a lot of that has to do with the level of intensity they're putting in to that low volume training. Now, if you push yourself super, super hard on low volume, you can still get sore and absolutely spark new muscle growth. Now, I just think you have to push each of those sets a little bit harder than if you were to have a crap ton of sets to play around with, like I said previously. And I think for a lot of people as well, it's, unless you're an advanced level trainer or whatever, or you really know the technique, I think you should, before you start doing low volume and stuff, I think it should be really important that you have your technique dialed and really what you're doing in the gym to maximize the benefits from those sets. So that's low volume training. Now let's get into what should you do if you're doing higher volume training. Now, if you're doing higher volume training, I definitely think the first thing is you can't go all out on every single set, or else you're just going to be way too sore. It's going to lead to overtraining. Now, one thing I do think many people get mixed up is overreaching and overtraining. Overtraining is where your strength and your gains start to go way down and it takes super long to get back to baseline. Overreaching, however, is where your performance dips just a little bit because you've trained super hard and your body's trying to recover for a couple workouts, but then it spikes back up and shoots above baseline, which personally for me, I think I overreach quite a bit. And every now and again I have some workouts where performance is a little bit lower, but then a little bit after, I'll just have a really, really good workout and my performance will spike up. So that's really what overreaching is, and I think a lot of people get that confused. Now, to reach true overtraining, like, you gotta do a lot of freaking shit. Like, it's gotta be brutal, and I don't think many of you at all are really reaching true overtraining, so I don't really think this should be an issue for a lot of you. But a good, way I like to go about it is, if you're going, you shouldn't really go into your next workout feeling sore. If you're going into your next workout feeling sore, that means that your body's still recovering and it's not ready to, have those muscle fibers tear apart again, because it's still recovering from the previous workout that you were doing. So if you are doing higher volume, you got to taper back your intensity to adequately include the volume that you're doing. Because if you just do super high volume and super high intensity, that's a recipe to, feel overtrained, and not even actually overtrained, but also like mentally, like systemic fatigue and all sorts of fatigue. Like, mentally, you may not be as motivated to go to the gym and stuff like that. So if you are doing higher volume, temper your intensity to accommodate for it. And another thing that, high volume people say a lot, I would say, is there is quite a bit of literature showing that, the more sets you do, the more muscle growth we tend to see. But to be honest, I don't really buy it, because a lot of those studies are on untrained lifters, and it also doesn't mention how hard they're going during those sets and stuff like that. So I think when we talk about this, like, yes, they are growing better in the studies, doing like 30 plus sets or whatever per muscle per week and stuff, but how hard were each of those sets really? So if you're doing 30 plus sets or whatever, I mean, the intensity is probably not going to be that hard. So those are the two. We got high intensity, low volume, really, or we got low intensity, high volume. What should you do? Well, if you got more time in the gym and you don't really want to push yourself as hard, then I mean, higher volume, I think that can work for you. I think there's a balance, right? So there's a balance of how hard you can push, and also how much volume you can handle, and there's always that baseline where it will even out. So let's say someone does really low volume, but they do a lot really hard sets. I think they can make just as good of gains as someone who's doing, less intensity but more volume. I think they're equal. So what do I think? I think you should probably do a little bit of both. I think the best literature on volume right now is 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week, and you ideally want to do 2 weightlifting sessions for that muscle group every week. And depending on, where you are in that range, let's say you're around 10 sets, maybe increase the intensity a little bit more. And if you're around 20, you can temper it back a little bit. But really, it all comes down to you. How does your body respond to the training, and how do you feel doing the training and after? If, you're like really sore one time and shit like that, maybe temper the volume back or drop the intensity a little bit. And you got to find that sweet spot for you. That sweet spot for you is different for everyone. Me personally, I do around 16 sets per body part every week, and I take all those sets to failure. I recover from it fine. I get sore after I work out. Usually there are certain muscles that get a little bit more sore than others, but that's also, individual to the person. But I get a little bit sore, I recover, and I train again, and it works for me. Now, it's obviously different for you. So what I'm trying to say here is they're both great options, and you really need to find which option works best for you. Me, I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. That works best for me. But let me know what side you guys are on, high volume or low volume training. Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to read your comments. I always like that. Regardless of whether you agree or disagree with what I have to say, I think it's amazing. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.